Blu-ray player. Okay, we have maybe 10 people who has a Blu-ray player. The majority of you do not. The reason is very simple. This is the horror of the electronics industry. For most of us, the DVD is good enough technology. Yeah? I mean, unless you have a wall-sized plasma, you're not going to see the difference. And in my case, I've already bought Bambi and Pinocchio twice. I'm not going to buy it again. Yeah? For most of us, this is good enough technology. Now, this means that we as IT people are going to have to rethink ourselves completely. Because what we did for 20 years in the old normal is we aimed for Rolls Royces and they didn't work, but they were Rolls Royces. Once we get into the new normal, there is a zero tolerance for digital failure, but speed is better than perfection. This is not just for digital natives, this is for every single one of us. How much time do I still have? 2 minutes. Well, then I'm going to close. Let me focus on the last thing I want to say. I believe in the new normal, we fundamentally have to rethink IT. IT, as we had it in the last 30 years, will not function anymore. We in IT have built armies of semi-autistic, technically brilliant engineers who we needed to build stuff, but it's not the type of people we need going forward. I'm a big fan of what I call the department previously known as IT, heavily inspired by my musical hero Prince, who at one point said, I don't like the name, I want to be called the artist formerly known as Prince. But we have to do more than cosmetics. If we as IT people want to fit in with the rest of the organization, if we in a society that has gone digital still want to be relevant, I think we have to reinvent ourselves and go to a renaissance. And there is only one core focus, and that core focus is on people. We have to turn the IT people around. We need hybrids. We need people who can think business and IT. We need left brain and right brain thinkers. We need people who can combine logical thinking with creativity. And the digital natives are a good hunting ground for these combined skills. I picked up this joke in the UK. I love this joke. People are our greatest assets. What we need in the next generation are people who have the ethics of Mother Teresa, the IT skills of Bill Gates, the intelligence of Vladimir Putin, and the charisma of Pamela Anderson. That's the type of people we need. Unfortunately, some of us are stuck with people who have the ethics of Vladimir Putin, the IT skills of Mother Teresa, the intelligence of Pamela Anderson, and the charisma of Bill Gates. That's the wrong type of people. But if we want to be relevant in the new normal, if we want to survive in the new normal, I think we fundamentally have to rethink ourselves. I'm going to close with this. One of my favorite books today is called What I Wish I Knew When I Was 20. It's written by Tina Selig. And Tina is professor at Stanford, and she's the head of the Stanford Technology Ventures program. And what she does is she teaches creativity to the young engineers at Stanford. And it's brilliant to see in this book how she actually motivates technically oriented people towards innovation, entrepreneurship, and creativity. I think if we want to survive as IT, we have to rethink ourselves. If you as CEOs want to survive, you will have to embrace the new normal, but I wish you a lot of luck in the new normal. Thank you very much.
Yes, and of course, we're here for hard work, but we will take off a little bit less than half an hour for the first course. But we also want to give you an opportunity to come up with urgent comments or reactions to what we've just heard. I can see your hand moving. Why don't you join Peter out in front, the two of you at the microphone, and a first reaction maybe to what you've just heard in this presentation, now also on the definition of digital information. No, by the way, we started answering the 2 points that President Sutter brought up, privacy, information. We've already had a bit of that from Peter Hinsen. Yes?
So yeah, I really love the presentation. I think it's very contemporary. It shows what is happening today and the atmosphere in which we work. At the other hand side, I also have to say, unfortunately, the reality for a lot of people in large corporations is that they have to cope with the amount of information, with long emails and these kind of things. So your Centaur thing is, I think, entirely appropriate. You have to bridge it and you have to make it possible. I think if you marry the two presentations you see, you know, there's a lot of that digital thing going on, and my call for action, you know, if you recall what I said at the end, is make it, you know, easy for people to navigate around, give them a digital identity, and make it easy for them to collaborate. And the way to do that is what you saw there.
Peter Hinson, this is a marriage proposal. What do you say to that? Yes or no?
Well, I'm already married, but happily married even. But I think I sound interesting. I think the debate is more fundamental than that. The debate is really about where are we going with this. And I think you have to probably think about two areas. One is the relationship between CIOs and CEOs. And there was an interesting article in CIO magazine last week online, and it said, will the CIO become irrelevant because of the cloud? And I made the big mistake of starting with that statement in Germany. Well, it took me 2 hours just to get them back in the right mood. But we have to really rethink ourselves and our relationship. The second is, I think, the reality of being digital. I also want us to think about what does it mean for us, not just in our company, but in our country as well. We live in a country where if there's a smog alert, we have people who get up at 2:30 in the night om die bordjes te draaien. We're an analog third world country, you know. If we want to survive with digital natives, I think we have to think about what do we have to do as a country to support that.
Okay, and of course the idea was not to have the full debate now. We'll come back to you with the panel discussions. Thank you for stimulating the conversation we're going to have now for half an hour during food. Thanks to both Peters. Bon appétit, smakelijk eten. We zien elkaar terug over een half uurtje. Off. Yes. No? The future starts now. Are you ready? En met deze video beginnen we de tweede sessie. Twee debatjes. We're going to have two conversations on the topics that were so brilliantly introduced by two global thought leaders. We're going to do that between a group of leading CEOs and CIOs. We're going to have it in two parts, and I propose that in the first part we try and see whether we agree on what we're seeing today. We heard a bit about diagnosing what the situation is with these new digital natives entering our companies, what it's going to be. First, do we agree on what we see happening in our companies? In the second debate, we're going to try and draw conclusions from that. What needs to be done to make sure that as a company we achieve the results we are aiming for? To have all of that, first of all, Mrs. Sabine Everath, CIO, Coca-Cola Europe. Thanks. Why don't you take a seat over there? And, of course, we also have Mr. Luc Delambard, the CIO with Van der Mortele in Isegem. And no one less than Alexander de Waal, CEO of CBO, to join us on the other side. And, of course, we're also going to have Brice Le Blevnek, president of Emakina. And last but not least, Paul van Biervliet, CEO with Cisco, in alphabetical order, all of this. Yes, have your seat. And to start the discussion, Sabine Everath, you ended your video on the question, are we ready for it? After having heard the two keynote speakers, are we agreed on the diagnosis of what we're seeing, these digitals entering your company? It's already happening. It has happened in your company.
So I think if we... Is this working? Do you hear me?
They should get it going. If they don't, I'll give you mine.